Price action in crypto world today. XRP slightly down, just 1.37% at the time that I'm recording this. But I got to tell you, it's analyst after analyst after analyst insisting that the best is yet ahead. I doubt that these analysts with such great track records and recognizing the importance of historic precedents, I just doubt that they all happen to be wrong this time on something so consequential as to whether or not we're actually going to have face melting season with XRP and more broadly speaking, alt season. Of course it's coming. Now, not that I literally know that for sure, nobody technically does, but we're speaking in terms of probability. And I'm going to highlight just a slew of reasons why it makes sense to believe that what is most probable by a lot is, yeah, we're going to have that alt season. And yes, XRP is absolutely finally going to disgustingly melt faces. We're already there, and XRP has been showing tremendous strength. In fact, one analyst is highlighting a truly historical signal that's flashing right now. Just it couldn't be more obvious that the best is yet ahead. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And by the way, I'd like to mention that today, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 both hit new all-time highs. That is something that you want to see. Now, of course, more importantly, the Russell 2000 small cap stocks recently has been taking up, and it was up to some degree today. I think we're about 3% away from a new all-time high in the Russell 2000. Like, it is freaking prime, folks. This is what you would want and expect in this type of moment, and people are fearful here. I just cannot relate to that. And maybe it's just because those people need to, acquire some historical context. That in conjunction with growing up hair, like maybe those two things would probably make it so you'd be a little bit less fearful. This is a time to be excited, but frankly, you're not going to get rich in crypto if you're not willing to go through whatever the hell the market throws at you, because you don't control that part. That is, you got to make peace with that. That is out of your control. If the market goes down, and if it goes down quickly and your net worth plummets for some period of time, you don't control that. You control whether or not you have exposure when the good stuff happens, though, and you know that the crypto market keeps trending to the upside. So maybe you should consider this post from Altcoin Gordon, a very popular analyst with 801,000 followers on X. This is a Bitcoin price chart going back over a decade. But the point that he's making with this chart absolutely applies to XRP. He simply wrote, "If you can't handle the dump, you don't deserve the life-changing pump. Do you understand?" Well, I sure as hell understand. And so look at some of these percentage drops. I'll read a few of them, since I know not everybody's looking at the screen. But look at this. Look at this Bitcoin cycle from about, we'll just use rough time frame, from about 2015 through about 2017. Look at these massive pullbacks for that cycle. Down 29%, down 40%, then 33%, then 27%, then 40%, then 39%. But look at this massive gain. From the bottom of the top, you were actually up 9,920%. And if you couldn't suffer through those drops, which were scary to every human, and not literally every human, but to the general retail public who were there throughout those years, that would have been equally terrifying to what people are experiencing right now. The difference is the percentage drops back then were actually more dramatic. They were actually more intense. So if you can't handle this, you sure as hell wouldn't have made it if you were here in 2015, 2016, 2017. So you might say to yourself, well, if I were here, I would have made so much money. Well, maybe you would have, but if you're one of the people that's fearful right now, you would not have. You would not have made much money back then either, because it would have been even harder, and times were less certain. And then you get the next cycle, we'll say from roughly 2018 through, you could say it goes into 2021, but look at these pullbacks here. Negative 19, negative 54%, down 60%, 18%, 22%, 25%. Those are still pretty dramatic. Definitely pretty damn dramatic. And none of them were the end of the world, but I assure you that there are lots of people the world over that thought that each and every one of those was the end of the world. And then you get the most recent run up here over the last few years, down 23%, 20%, 22%, 21%, 23%, 30%, and right now down 12%. None of these are the end of the world. You tell me we went through all that volatility, which you can see has been historically normal, but this is the one where it's actually really over. Get the hell out of here. I'm sorry, folks. That's completely silliness. So let's just highlight why it makes sense to be optimistic here, because there are a lot of things so perfectly aligned that I want to highlight for you. And here's a post from chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto. This is an Ethereum BTC chart. And he wrote here, and he's, by the way, he's referencing MACD, which is a momentum indicator. And so he wrote here MACD, and just look down here. This is what he's talking about down here. So you've got ETH BTC up top, and then down at the bottom, this is what he's really getting at right here. The MACD indicator at the bottom. He says, MACD bullish cross just flashed on ETH BTC for the first time in 5 years. Alt season historical signal. And he's right. When this flashes, this is the moment, historically, when the market does start running. It doesn't mean literally today, literally tomorrow, but you're living in that moment where it happens. Look at this. And you can see, if you look at the green bar here, this is the first green bar. That's the momentum flip right there. And it's just a little tiny baby green candle, which if you're looking on your phone might be really hard to see actually, but it is there. It's about the same size as back in 2020 when it flipped. And that ultimately led to a massive, massive move up on the ETH BTC chart. And you know what that meant for the ETH USD chart also, which is really what matters to us, let's be real. When it got close to $4,900 when it peaked several years ago, now we had a new alt. On top of that, so you see the momentum indicator flip. You also know that Ethereum just came back from what was supposed to be death at around $1,400 several months ago, and it hit a new all-time high at, actually, let's check. I forget what it is now. 4,009, yeah, 4,942, almost 5,000. It was supposed to be dead. It came back. I told you it was going to come back. Of course, it came back. Here we are. That was obvious. And it's not done. So now, like, what do you think happens when this takes off? Because here's the thing about human behavior. We keep doing the same things over and over again. So I'm telling you, on the whole, humans are going to take profit and they're going to rotate it in other coins. They've done that every single cycle, and they're going to be looking for stuff that hasn't pumped yet. That's what the smart money does. That's what they do. It doesn't mean you're dumb money if you don't do that. I understand taking a completely safe approach. Like I'm not going to rotate anything. But I understand that the smart money, that's the way that they're looking at it. And that's what they've done every single damn cycle. They've been in whatever position for a while. They take the profit. Then they're like, well, what hasn't pumped yet? What do we think's going to go more? And then it goes XRP, go from large cap, mid cap, small cap, rinse and repeat. That's what happens every single cycle. So to think that human behavior no longer exists, come on. Of course it exists. Of course they're going to do that. Of course it's coming. Here's a post from Crypto Wizard. This is the crypto total market cap. He says, still time to go. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Every cycle has 3 years of bull followed by a bearish year. If this trend continues to, or rather, if this trend holds true, Bitcoin has a little more room to go before the bear comes rocket. Rocket ship emoji. Patience pays. And so that's why I keep saying, if history is to rhyme, the best is yet ahead. There's also there's not that much more time you have to wait if history's rhyming with itself. If it's going to be anywhere in the vicinity time-wise of what it's historically been, which is because of global M2, by the way, that's the reason it's like clockwork. It just follows based on liquidity cycles. Given that's the case, and you can still see the liquidity flowing in a way that historically makes sense, yeah, it makes sense to think that sooner than later we're going to peak. It is going to come. It would be silly to think it's not coming. That doesn't make any sense right now. Here's a post from chart analyst Dom. The first one's from August 12th. He's talking about Bitcoin dominance here. He said, Bitcoin dominance just printed a new low. Bearish retest played perfect. Now we watch for 60% to stay resistant, so meaning 60% dominance, and alts remain in an expansive mode. Okay, so that was August 12th. Well, what's happening now? Well, just yesterday, he shared this update. Bitcoin dominance. He says, this analysis played perfect here. But the kicker is most alts didn't take this dominance. It was just a handful. This is a unique situation we are in right now. Bitcoin keeps making lower lows as many alts are making higher lows. It's like the market is looking at an alt season, but is scared to take the step. Well, that's an interesting way to word it, and a totally fair way to word it, by the way. That's exactly the characterization that you would expect from a good chart analyst right before things start going the way that they expect it to go, which is to say Bitcoin dumps and altcoins take off. That is exactly the characterization. That's what it looks like right before all of this happens and everything's lining up. And on a macro scale, it's not just in crypto land. It's not just Bitcoin dominance. It's not just the ETH BTC pair. It's not just XRP USD or whatever pair you want to look at with XRP. You could look at XRP BTC, that too, all of that too, but also macro. What's happening in other asset classes? What's happening in the stock market? Well, I told you at the outset what's happening with equities. New all-time highs for the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100. Not with the Dow Jones today, but you wouldn't necessarily expect all the new all-time highs every single day at the same time. Although they did recently. They did last week, actually. I think twice. But the Russell 2000, that shows people are willing to go further out the risk curve that has been expanding. That is what you want, because if people are willing to go further out the risk curve on the Russell 2000, historically that's been a requirement for alt season, and that's what we are seeing. Here's another post from Dom. Actually, two. This is XRP here. The first one's from August 18th. XRP US oil update. I don't see a reason to get worried about further upside unless XRP falls back into its 7-month range against oil. That would be a major red flag. But for now, Chop City with 10% lower to move down. Okay, so again, that was August 18th. Then yesterday, August 27th, he provided an update on the XRP US oil pair. He said a week later, thoughts remain the exact same. I generally think a bottom is in for XRP around those lows, or $2.50 is incoming. Breaking back into this range is a red flag, as stated above. That would send us back to $2.50. So folks, the range he's talking about, holding above that is what he's saying. So he's just warning. He's not saying it's going to happen. He's not saying it to scare people. If it goes down that low, okay, then in the short term, you could dip that low. But he's noting strength here, though. At a time when, broadly speaking, the market, we kind of been moving sideways the last few days, mostly anyway. But it's not like there's something to be fearful about. There just isn't. There's just people that are impatient right now, and as a result, like a lot of people, they end up feeling scared in environments like this. Just human nature. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK from this morning. It says XRP struggling to break this resistance versus Bitcoin. Would love a strong XRP day today so we can close the 3-day above this level. We are so close to rocking and rolling again for XRP. Okay, now I think we've fallen below that. I mean, obviously the candle's closed for the day, even though as I'm recording, I can't remember if I said the time. So for me, it's 9:23 p.m. Central Time, Thursday, August 28th, 2025. But the charts close at, I believe, 7 p.m. Central Time. So, and then you can see it on XRP USD also down a little bit, down to $2.94 when I started the video here. Fine, we'd prefer to see it higher, but like, don't you see everything is like knocking on the door of bursting, like right against all of these key lines? And at a moment where macro's looking pretty freaking fantastic, what do you see how everything is so perfectly lined up? It obviously is. Which is why I'm telling you, even though I don't literally know what's going to happen, and anybody who tells you they do, they're just lying, or what an ego, wow. Even though that's true, we don't know for sure. Again, like I said earlier in the video, it's about probabilities. I have the conviction that I have because that's what makes the most logical sense, is to have that level of conviction and believe that is what is most probable to occur. And I do believe that. And sometimes in life the improbable occurs and then we deal with it, but no, I don't think that's going to happen. And even if something bad happened in the short term, God forbid there's a black swan event and everything falls apart, okay, well then I'll see in a few years when markets recover and we're back at all-time highs and I'll sell after that. And life goes on. And in the meantime, I'll keep making money and life goes on and there's nothing to worry about. It's fine. As long as you put food on the table, it's okay. But I want my Lambo. No. Shut up. Shut up. You will get your Lambo when the market allows it, okay? You don't get to choose. This is what I keep telling you. You do not get to choose when the stuff goes. Either you have exposure when it happens, or you do not. So we just got to be adults about it. It's okay, though. I mean, God forbid you have to hold a few years, and then you get the life-changing wealth with the Lambo. Ooh. And this is coming from somebody who's been here since late 2017, and I've never cashed out to USD, and I am just as patient as day one, because that's what it takes. And I went in with these expectations that, just hold for a really long time, whatever it takes. Because it's the same attitude I already had about the stock market, and I knew I was good about that, just investing for decades, whatever, that's fine. So I just applied that mentality to crypto, and wouldn't you know it, I brought exposure, I've held for a long time, and now it's worth a fortune compared to what I put in. It just is. So I'll get it, I'll get the profits, and I'll sell whenever I sell, and that's that. I'm not worried about it, folks. I'm really not. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom. He says XRP consolidating in a similar manner as the 2017 consolidation. Well, isn't that something? I would say so. I'd circle this differently. I'd argue like the consolidation that we're in right now, it's more like this. Now, he's the chart guy. I'm not. But if he's right, I'll just say this. If what he circled right here in 2017 is equivalent to what we're at right now, for those of you looking at the screen, seeing what he circled there, these are very different time frames. So, like, I will just say this. If this right here, where we are now, is, so going back the last, 8 months or whatever it's been at this point, if that's equivalent to this little thing in 2017, and then you can see how much higher, oh my God. If that's true, then $8, $9, $10 ain't even close to bullish enough. If that's true, then yeah, the people that are shouting $30, they'd probably be closer to correct. So I haven't really seen anybody else characterize it quite that way. What I keep seeing is the same way that I've talked about it. Like you'd have to look at the screen to see exactly what I'm talking about. Where I'm moving my mouse right here, though, this first pump in the first half of 2017, that's considered like the first really big move. And there were ups and downs in between, obviously, and he circled one notable one here. But that was considered like the first really big move. And then he consolidated for about half a year, and then it rocketed again. Well, that's the way that I was looking at this personally, and that's like, I'm not an analyst, but the analysts that I follow, that's what the rest of them have been looking at it as too. So this is a kind of a unique perspective, but it would be like where I'm moving this would be the first major leg up here where I move my mouse now, late 2024. And then into early 2025, you did see that first peak where XRP got a new all-time high finally at $3.40. But then we just been moving sideways until last month, and then we started to break out, and now I think you're just waiting for the rest of the market. Then when it goes, that's when you'd see the final major leg up. That's what I had been expecting, because historically, I mean, that's just what's happened. That's what happened last cycle, the cycle before that. That's what every other analyst that I follow has been expecting and talking about. So I haven't seen this comparison other than from him, but I thought I'd highlight it because it's fascinating. And if this is the right way to look at it, my God, it would mean higher prices. Like, it obviously would. Here's a post from Altcoin Gordon. Said, XRP fractal looking strong. The pump will shock many. Again, he has a fantastic track record. You can see what he's pointing at. So where we are right now is where I'm moving the mouse at around $3. And he's expecting in short order for us to rocket up into price discovery and have a local peak at $4.39 in the coming weeks. And this stuff happens and it changes quickly, People are only sad and impatient until suddenly the market starts going, and then nobody is. And it just happens like snap of a finger, folks. That's how it always goes. Here's a post from chart analyst Cryptolica. He is still insisting that $10 plus is coming for XRP. He has been incredibly persistent on that point. He insists this is coming. And he posted this literally just yesterday. Hasn't changed. And that's the level of conviction that I see from everybody, including chart analyst Javon Marks here. He said the current XRP target, $4.80. With room to extend above to $8 to $10. Now, he's made it clear he thinks that XRP actually goes way higher than that, but he's obviously talking more so in the short term. If that happens, I will not be surprised in the least. Here's a post from chart analyst Credible Crypto just from this morning. And I'm not going to read the thing. He's basically talking about his thoughts as it pertains to a trade with XRP. So he does hodl XRP, and he has been for like the better part of a decade. He's also a trader. He's one of the few out there that's actually a successful trader, but 90 to 95% of traders actually lose money. So credit where it's due, he nails it. But the reason I was highlighting this at all is to note that he thinks in the short term, so in the coming days, you could see a lower price with XRP. And it's kind of funny he posted this, and now we're already down like 5 cents from when he posted this. So in the lower time frame, the short, for the short term, yes, he does think we're probably going lower, but he's excited for that because he wants to trade more, and he'll view that as a better entry opportunity. But on the higher time frame, he wrote here, higher time frame remains exceptionally bullish. So that doesn't change. Big picture, he still believes that XRP is going to jump up between, he thinks it's going to peak up 20 to $30. He's made that very clear here. So plenty of reasons to be exceptionally excited. I know people get fearful, but stop it. I mean, like, I don't know what's right for you in terms of buying and selling. I'm not telling you to buy or sell. I'm just saying, logically, it does not make sense. It just doesn't. This is a time